Would your party like to see legislation on this issue?
Well, I welcome the decision of the Employment Tribunal. I mean, Uber is amazing technology. It's fantastic what they've been able to do. But the concern is, if technology like that transfers the obligations that we expect to put on any good business to the rest of us, to taxpayers, to the rest of society in terms of paternity leave and annual holidays, sick pay, well, that isn't a reasonable position to have. So it's about the balance between the two things. And I think it's an excellent bit of work from the GMB trade union. Nobody wants to see anyone in work be denied basic employment rights. So it's a step in the right direction. Technology should free us up. It should liberate us. It shouldn't leave us in a position where we enjoy any less employment rights.
And Mr Reynolds, could I just get your view on that other issue I was discussing with Mr Hines there, the issue of disability benefits and how they're going to look at increasing support and targeting, they say. Do you think they should go a lot further and have a look at overall at the cuts coming down the line?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I welcome the government's recognition that they're getting this wrong. This is a system which has not helped people. It has put a lot of people into misery and quite a lot of suffering. The fundamental problem is it's punitive. You know, when people get a letter through the door saying they're getting one of these assessments, they don't think, brilliant, I'm going to access some more support. They live in fear of that assessment because it doesn't take into account the medical situation. It's an administrative test. It doesn't usually give them in a position where they're getting more support. It leaves them in a position where they're getting that financial support taken away. And the fundamental problem has been the government, the Conservatives, they've tried to do welfare reform, not in a way which gets people back into work, but in a way which saves money. And that's going to be the big question they've got to answer when they take this consultation forward.
Now, let's get on to your own patch. The city, now sitting in the middle of that, at the heart of the Bank of England, is, of course, the Governor at the moment, Mark Carney. Do you think there's an operation to try and destabilise him by the government?
Well, it seems completely reckless. I mean, when I read the story this morning that some Conservative MPs wanted to replace Mark Carney with Jacob Rees-Mogg, I have to say that was the scariest Halloween story I could have read. I mean, this is deeply irresponsible. If you look at the fall in the pound, the fall in sterling, how will that be helped by forcing the Governor of the Bank of England out? This is deeply irresponsible. Mark Carney did the right thing after the Brexit vote. He pacified the economy with the measures that were taken. Conservative MPs can't blame the Bank of England for the poor performance of the economy over the last 6 years. They've got to take responsibility for that. And this is not helpful in any way to the Brexit process or to the state of the economy as we get close to the autumn statement.
But would you sound a warning that if a government is seen to have forced out or at least put pressure on an independent governor of a major central bank, that might worry the markets?
No, absolutely. I mean, this in no way would help anybody in Britain. It certainly wouldn't help our economy. The operational independence of the Bank of England should be sacrosanct. John McDonnell said exactly that in his speech earlier in the week. Of course, politicians, we can change the mandate of the inflation target for the Bank of England. We can change the Bank of England Act. But once we've got those things in place, that operational independence must be respected. And the last thing this country needs right now is more of this chaotic, irresponsible behaviour from Conservative backbenchers.
Now, I want to ask you about the Richmond by-election coming up next month. We expect, or if we are in November, which I'm more or less imagining, coming up 1st of December anyway. Do you genuinely believe that Labour should not stand a candidate in that by-election to maximise the so-called progressive vote?
Well, that was a personal view. We are going to stand a candidate. I thought it was something that was worth consideration if the local party were agreeable to that, but that's not the direction we've taken. I respect that, so I'll be out campaigning for our Labour candidate once they're picked, and we're going to play a full role in that by-election.
Because you've returned to the front bench, haven't you? You didn't think much of Jeremy Corbyn a few months ago. Now you're back working with him. Why the volte-face?
Well, it's Brexit in the main. I think the Brexit process is going to be something completely fundamental to my life, to anyone who lives in Britain now and in the political process for many years to come. And I'm deeply worried. I'm genuinely deeply worried by what we've seen from the Conservative Party so far, not just this forcing out the Governor of the Bank of England story, but the messages we've sent out on foreign workers, the failure to say EU nationals should remain here. We seem to be now talking about a sector-by-sector, maybe a factory-by-factory Brexit deal. That's not the way to get the best result for this country. And that process, this negotiation, has to be scrutinised in Parliament. And, of course, I want to play a part in that. I think that's what any MP needs to be doing right now. And
just tell me, as Shadow City Minister, what kind of soundings are you taking in the city at the moment? Are you having a lot of lunches and a good reception? Can you tell me who you've been to see?
Yes, I've had quite a good time in the city so far. Obviously, the city isn't just a square mile in Canary Wharf, but I've spent, being an MP in London in the week, quite a bit of time there. I've been to see the Bank of England and the Governor. I've been to the Guildhall. I've talked to many people so far. And I can genuinely tell you, people tell me they have never before had so little confidence in a Conservative Prime Minister on the economy with the anti-business rhetoric they're coming out with. And they are very scared about what they've heard so far about the Brexit strategy the government seems to be adopting, and they want some more detail from them on what the way forward will be.
Well, what city businesses have you been to see? You said the Guildhall and the Bank of England. What about the ones that make the money there?
Yes, I've been to see several of the banks, several of the asset management organisations and people in insurance, and I've had a very good reception from people. I did anticipate that's a question people would want to ask of any new shadow city minister, but I can tell you I've spent a lot of time there and I'm very much enjoying the job so far. This is something that has to be got right, not just for the city.
Spending time walking around, or have you actually been let in the door? Which ones have you seen, Mr Reynolds?
Well, I've been to see people from Barclays. I've been in talks with people from the Financial Conduct Authority. I've met the Governor of the Bank of England. I've met the Chief Economist of the Governor of the Bank of England. So there's been a very wide open door to me. It hasn't been the case that people haven't been willing to talk to Labour about this. They want to work with the opposition and they want this to be a successful process for the country. We've got to get Brexit right.